How y'all doing? Some time back I found an old paperback of a science fiction novel that was adapted into a movie I watched often as a kid. The movie I'm referring to is an old sword and sorcery picture, and a lot of us who liked that genre at the time always particularly like this one. In fact, many of you probably put it as the top three along with Red Sonja and Conan. Now let me show you a trailer there and you see what I'm talking about.
It was foretold by witches. It was conceived through sorcery. And it was to be destroyed by all that is evil. But the courage of one mortal saved it. And so, into an age of darkness, in a time of mysticism, sacrifice, and plunder, there came the only light, the Beastmaster. Born with the strength of a black tiger, the courage of an eagle, the power that made him more than any hero. More than any lover. He was lord and master over all beasts. He was the Beastmaster. Behold the wonder, the horror, the fantasy, the challenge of the one warrior they called the Beastmaster. Mark Singer is Dar, Tanya Roberts is Carrie, Rip Torn is Mayak, John Amos is Seth. Together they take us on a fascinating journey back into unexplored times. Conquer your fears. Face the unknown. And discover the incredible link between man, animal, and all that is phantasmagorical. In the world of Dungeons, Dragons, and Dar. The Beastmaster. The epic adventure of a new kind of hero.
It's amazing they got that from a novel that is a space western. So yeah, the movie that came out in 1982, just a couple months after Conan the Barbarian was released, was based on a novel from 1959 by Andre Norton. You don't know much about Andre Norton. She was a writer if you go to a used bookstore and look under the ends, if they put it alphabetically, you realize this is an author with a lot of work. Now you see Andre Norton is like, okay, I said she, yes, this is a female writer. She was Alice Norton, but she changed it to Andre Norton to help with the sales of her books at the time. Because you had some things like that, and market-wise, I guess it happens. Very few writers ever went to the genre, but that was slowly changed over the years. But let's not get too political on this one. So you have the Beastmaster in '59, but she wrote 4 more sequels, and there was a couple books by other authors with her consent, of course. Now the 4 sequels there, we had Lord of Thunder in 1962, Beastmaster's Ark in 2002, Beastmaster Circus 2004. Beastmaster's Quest in 2006. So yeah, some of these are relatively recently. And as I said, there's 2 other books which are written entirely based on her notes, I guess with her consent, but authors wrote their own stories on it. But I haven't delved too much on what those are. And you can look it up in Wikipedia what those are. So I'm digressing again. So what's the story about? Well, the story centers around a main character named Hostine Storm, who's a Navajo Indian who was a former military man. See, this takes place, of course, in the future there, and Earth just finished with a war against the alien race called the Zix. And unfortunately, one of the aftermaths of this war is Earth is now destroyed. So, with the war over here and Earth destroyed, Hostine Storm is finished with the military, and he's going to take his animal companions and go over to planet Arzor. The Hostine is a former Navajo, but in the military he was a Beastmaster, a very specially trained group of people here with a telepathic or empathic ability to communicate and control animals to help him out on missions. His companions are animals, of course. There are two mere cats, Ho and Ling. They kind of serve as thieves, and there's also an African black eagle, Baku, that could serve as his eyes. And there's also Sura, which you could call a cat per se, but never explicitly says it's a cat. It was bred from an animal that lives in a desert, and it describes has desert adaptabilities, high hearing, fox-like features, but never says anything if it's feline or canine or something else. But they took that species and selective breeding, made it bigger, more intelligent, and kept the other positive traits that it has on it, like special hearing. So he's going to take his companions and move to Arzor to serve as an animal handler. Makes sense. This is a planet where humans came by and try to have an uneasy alliance with the local habitants species that already lives there, sort of tall green aliens with horns. You can sort of look in the background of this, what their outline looks like. But there's no instant war. There may be some tribal problems there, but a lot of times it's a very uneasy alliance between the humans who are just trying to raise horses and herd animals and trying to do their the horses do well on this planet here, so that's what they're doing. Hostein's going to come by and help out, and with his abilities, this is a natural job for him to do. And because of his Navajo upbringing and with the way with animals, it made it easy for him to not only communicate, because a lot of times the species that naturally habits there don't do well speaking our language. There's a lot of sign language, which Hostein, being Navajo, does very well. He adapts very quickly to the sign language, and because of the animal companions, they sort of look at him as sort of a kindred spirit in many cases. So there's got a lot of advantages of that. But of course, as a Western goes, he has a small rivalry with a guy here. You see some Westerns where you got this one guy who just, for no logical reason, starts to, becomes this guy's enemy. But such things are going to happen here. So Hostein's there as an animal handler officially. He's actually on a personal mission. He's out to kill a man named Quaid. A man who, according to his grandfather who raised him, murdered his father. And I think his mother died very young. So his grandfather, told him that you need to find Quaid. He's wronged our family. He's murdered your father. This is the man you need to get. So now, Hostein Storm is officially on a quest to try and find Quaid and kill him. And of course, I won't get too much into the details of the story of all the obstacles to come by. I mean, he has to go through the harsh weather. It rains frequently, so there can be constant flooding. There is supposedly a special locked away room with treasures, a good archaeological dig, what have you. So there's that. There's the uneasy alliance between the humans and the native species on there. And as I said, there's also be remnants of the alien species they just defeated in the last war. They're going to cause problems here. And the man he has a rival with here, is there more to him than just what appears? And there's also the question of whether his quest for Quaid is truly justified. A lot of stuff's kind of obvious, but I'll let you, if you find a copy of this, I'll let you go ahead and read that. And I enjoyed this book. And it's an interesting thing when how many of us read books that are later adapted to movies? We watch the movies, then come back to reading the books. We find out that we enjoy the books better, so we end up distancing ourselves or hating the movie entirely that it adapted from the original book. I think so much has changed to where I can't take away my love of the original film. Yeah, it's a small, low-budget sword and sorcery film that was common in the 80s era, but it's also one of the better ones made, and I enjoyed it as a kid, and I still find it watchable today. But it's so different from the original book, I can't hate it entirely. I can enjoy it as a different beast, again, take that pun as you will, from the original book, and I can enjoy the book as its own separate thing. I hate the idea that the author, who took her time and effort to create this one story, just to have it presented in our media in such a different form. This is one of those things Harlan Ellison fought for years against, about the integrity of the writer in their work, and how you respect the writer in their creation. So that's one of those things. So I could take these two as separate, and be okay with it. I don't think it's a book that can be easily adapted into a movie today. You read about how the setting of this world is set up. you would still have to do a lot of changes because how do you have to make an alternative timeline from a different form of the past, not from today to this, but from the past to this. So how do you do that in a film form? But hey, this is one of those cases where you just take the book, read for what it is. It's a good light read adventure, and it has several sequels if you like this. Andre Norton's one of those writers you shouldn't forget there. I haven't read too much of her work, but as I say, it's very commonly found in used bookstores. So if this isn't your thing, you can probably find something else that is. She was prolific at her time. But I picked this up because it was connected to an old movie I watched as a kid, and I picked it up and read it, and glad I enjoyed it. And so yeah, if you like the idea of a sci-fi western, and I know a lot of you are not against that, how many of you watch Serenity, or Firefly, that the series, that Serenity was based off of. We all like that sci-fi western, so here's another version of that, and hope you all enjoyed it. So find a copy of this and give it a whirl. Thank you all for watching, and have a nice day.